The call of the wild is loud and clear this week as we travel to Alaska. We'll see dozens of killer whales in the Kenai fjords, a mama grizzly bear and her two cubs in Denali National Park as we join Celebrity Cruise Lines for an escorted land tour to the land of the midnight sun. We'll also visit Fairbanks, where we'll cruise the Chena River, visit Anchorage on possibly the best day of the year, and maybe, just maybe, get a look at the highest mountain in North America. It's an extraordinary week on the high roads, and it all begins right now. Hi everybody, and welcome to another great destination. In fact, this is the farthest north we've ever traveled. I'm told we're about 100 miles from the Arctic Circle. It never did get dark last night, and that puts us right here in Fairbanks, Alaska. We've come here to Alaska because the folks at Celebrity Cruise Lines have always said that if you only take the sea portion of a cruise to Alaska, you've missed half the trip. So we begin with a land tour, and we do it on board the Discovery 3 with a riverboat cruise. Fairbanks is the largest city in the interior of Alaska, but with a population of just around 32,000, it's really just a small town that plays a big role in the area. So Fairbanks is really just a starting point. It's a short drive out of town to see the Alaska Pipeline and a short trip to the steamboat landing, where our fully escorted Celebrity Cruises land tour began. Of course, shopping for souvenirs was high on the list, but it was in the back corner of the store we all discovered one of the most unique experiences I've ever had, a walk into a deep freeze to get a taste of a Fairbanks winter day at 40 below. How the folks do it up here, I'll never know, but many seem to relish it. And we started learning all about that as soon as we departed on Discovery 3, a 280-ton fixture of the Alaska interior.
It's 156 feet long, 34 feet across, flat on the bottom, 280 tons, and we only sink down in this shallow river 39 inches. But right now we're going to blow the whistle and add a new page to the logbook. If you're here, don't miss this emotional farewell now.
The Binkley family has been running riverboats for more than a century, first providing a lifeline to miners and settlers, and now providing a lifetime adventure for visitors. This trip is sort of like riding through It's a Small World at Disneyland, only here, the world comes at you full size and full speed, like this float plane demonstration.
So let's see how he does. Look at the control, the daylight under the floats as he brings it in here. And he's showing off this morning, one and then the other. But that's okay, he's earned the right. He's one of the best there is.
It wasn't too much farther up the river that we came upon another icon of Alaska life, sled dogs, at one of the best-known sled dog kennels in the state. And the owner was mic'd and ready to tell us his story.
Well, good morning and welcome to Trailbreaker Kennel.
David Munson is one of the big dogs, shall we say, when it comes to races like the Iditarod and the Yukon Quest 1000. But it's his late wife, Susan Butcher, who may have been one of the most famous dog racers in the world, along with her famed dog Granite. In fact, there's a very nice little tribute to her back at the store.
We're having a wonderful time on the banks of the Chena River, and I've always considered ourselves really to be one of the luckiest kennels in the state because we have this beautiful river that turns into a super highway in the winter time. As a matter of fact, Iditarod race went right by here all the way to Nome. That's 1,000 miles.
Sled dogs train year-round, so David uses a motorless ATV in the summer, and it is all he can do to hang on before turning his dog team loose.
There we go.
One of those things the instinct to pull is joy that they have that comes from within their heart to run the best they can as sled dogs and part of the team.
The Chena River flows into the Tanana River, which was our turnaround point, and a point to learn a little more about Alaska geography and the dynamics of Mother Nature.
It drains 44,000 square miles of territory and rises out of one glacier the size of Rhode Island. the Nebezna, in the Wrangell Mountains. And all this rock soup, all that silt is picked up and transferred. Look at the way this landmass is formed. This was not here 8 years ago. This is ground-up mountain range that you're looking at.
A ground-up mountain, huh? Well, that certainly puts a new perspective on the landscape of Alaska, and another outstanding example of what a marvelous and massive place this is. The ancient history of Native Alaskans also runs deep here, so our last stop on the river was this replica of a summer salmon camp.
Right now, I'm scoring the salmon, which is making diagonal cuts through the flesh down to the skin. Scoring the salmon creates more surface area on the fillets, allowing smoke to work further into it and further dehydrate it.
This was our only stop on the river cruise, and a good one at that, as our fellow travelers were able to spread out to learn more about Native Alaska culture.
My ancestors, they used to live along a river very much like this one, and they did very much the same things that you would see along this village. We hunted the moose, lived in the cabins, stayed in tents, and caught fish, and mainly, yeah, it's basically the same thing around here.
Robin says she's amazed at how our ancestors were able to survive here, and I would certainly have to agree, and that's one of the things that makes Alaska even more impressive than just the scenery alone.
We need to take a short break, and when we come back, our Celebrity Cruises land tour continues on board this luxury train car. Destination, Denali National Park. It's a beautiful trip, a beautiful destination, as you will see when we come back.
What a glorious day it was as we boarded our train at the Fairbanks station. Once again, the feeling of being a celebrity came over all of us as we boarded the Wilderness Express, a private luxury car hooked onto the end of a scheduled Alaska Railroad train.
And then over here on your left, we have the St. Mark's Mission. This is an original church here.
The sun was shining brightly on our domed car, and boy, did that light up the smiles. It looked like a perfect day to visit Denali National Park, but as we railed along, the weather began to change, if not our spirits, because it was all still so beautiful.
I think with the train, I enjoy the idea of being able to see Alaska instead of just driving where you're at the height of your window where you don't have the view. You know, so the train actually offers an expansive look, you know, at what you're trying to see.
A lot of the scenery we saw was the result of the permafrost, which covers the northern third of the state. The frozen ground not only stunts the growth of trees, but the permafrost also forms a seal that prevents drainage and creates these numerous shallow lakes.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. That works.
Yep, pretty much everything was working for us, although the weather continued to get worse. There was a steady drizzle as we boarded the Tundra Express buses in Denali, and then it started snowing. And yes, that is a moose out there, partially camouflaged by the snowflakes. Of course, wild animals can be elusive and difficult to spot. Well, that wasn't the case when we spotted a mama grizzly with her 2 young cubs right in the road.
Yeah.
What an incredible sight for all of us on the bus, because most people don't get this close to wild animals at the zoo. And here they were, right outside our windows, which, by the way, were a most welcome safety barrier. The obvious question, though, was why are these bears essentially playing in traffic?
If they're a wild animal, that road looks like that gravel bar to them. They walk on gravel bars all the time, and that's part of the beauty of having our wildlife viewing road be a gravel road, because the animals don't like walking on pavement.
But they do like the root of the Eskimo potato plant they were digging for, which was a good start to refueling after their long winter nap. Of course, seeing grizzlies is one of the bare necessities of a Denali visit, but we also got some incredible views of other animals in the park.
Oh, there's one right in front of us.
You can see the weather had cleared quite a bit at this point, so the scenery got better and better and better as we stopped for this view of the Alaska Range.
And if Denali were clear, it would be this direction, but that is still in the snow, in the clouds. We'll keep our fingers crossed. It's possible.
We've now made it about 2/3 of the way up as far as we're going here at the Denali National Park. You can see it's definitely still winter here, even though we're past Memorial Day. And we just received some great news because up until just a few minutes ago, this was our last stop because of the weather. But now we're going to be able to go up to mile 53, and we're keeping our fingers crossed that Denali comes out from the clouds.
We continued our journey deeper into the park, finally stopping at the Park Service's Toklat River Contact Station, which is generally for hikers and campers, and the end of the road for us on this early season trip. But still, Denali was denying.
We've been watching for Denali, but Denali's still in that big cumulus cloud.
Our group still had high hopes, but in reality, our return seemed more like a retreat. But then, not quite halfway back, the clouds began to thin, and finally, at 8:05 in the evening, the north peak of Denali appeared, soaring 20,320 feet up into the air. Most visitors never do see Denali. We were among the roughly 30% who are so lucky, which put our Celebrity Cruises tour group in a pretty exclusive club.
Coming up next, we're here at Anchorage on one of the most beautiful days of the entire year. In fact, it is so perfect, even the Alaskans can't believe what a great day we are having. We'll share it all with you as our land and sea tour continues.
There were still lots of smiles on our celebrity luxury coach as we headed south to Anchorage. Our incredible day in Denali still fresh in our minds. But then that excitement turned to disbelief as the great one, Denali, came into full view with barely a cloud in the sky.
Isn't she a beauty? She just loves Denali.
Talk about reaching rarefied air. I'm told that a full, unobstructed view of the mountain like this is extremely rare, especially in the early summer. Wow. And what do you do when such a once-in-a-lifetime sight comes into view? Of course, you all turn around and start taking selfies en masse to show the folks back home just how lucky you are and how lucky we all were.
Denali!
For fun, I bought all our fellow travelers these 30%er certificates, showing off maybe, but why not?
1, 2, 3.
When you've seen what 70% of visitors never do. In Anchorage, we found the state's largest city basking in the glory of sunny, warm temperatures in the 70s. The parks were full of people feeling the rich effect of vitamin D. And for lunch, of course, you've got to top off the perfect day with a giant reindeer dog piled high with sauerkraut and everything else.
Good.
Then along Ship Creek, local anglers were getting an early start on the salmon run, and lots of other people got their bikes out of cold storage because this was a day to celebrate. It was also a day to celebrate ancient culture here at the Alaska Native Heritage Center. This is a wonderful place to see what life was like long before Alaska became the 49th state. Again, the warm sunshine made the walk around the village area a stroll through time with replicas of different native villages in Alaska and a glimpse of what life was once like here and the ingenuity it took to survive. Inside, a lot of life necessities like baskets now look like native artwork, which they really are. And that tradition continues today with artisans like Peter Lind.
The kayak itself is made out of cedar. The man is made out of whale vertebrae, and the hat in the midst are made from cotton bark from the beach in Homer. Now his face is also made out of ivory, which is walrus ivory, and then on the back is a dried seal intestine for the float.
Peter's cousin Patrick is also a talented artist and a master fly tyer.
This one here is called Intimidator Man.
Each of his handmade flies is incredible, and he adds a native touch by using polar bear hair, which is a tradition only native Alaskans can use.
You take a single hair, put it under a microscope, and you're able to see it's more translucent, and it's also hollow. And so another thing that this does to the fly is it adds a little buoyancy because of the hollow hair.
A pretty good way to end our visit, as was this last look at Anchorage, where lo and behold, there was Denali, about 135 air miles away, but still with us. And how fitting it was that our trip to Anchorage ended as it began, under the watchful eye of North America's tallest peak.